Good morning. Welcome to Bianchi Law Talk, another Saturday at 10:30. And today we're going to tackle President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, who is about to be announced probably by tomorrow. We're already going to be on Shep Smith on Fox News discussing the ins and outs of this. So this is going to be really important, and people want to understand, how is this going to impact my life? Well, this is going to be a critical shift here, clearly to the conservative leanings on conservative issues. As we know, we've got now Justice Gorsuch, and now we have certainly conservative justices that are on the short list to be nominated by the president, and it looks pretty much bulletproof that eventually it's going to get through. So you will see the most major shift in the court in decades, because Justice Kennedy, who was a conservative justice, but he was very moderate on a number of issues that were considered or are considered on the progressive or liberal side, if you will, and they are definitely subject to attack. Regardless of whoever gets this, right or wrong, however you want to look at it, elections do have consequences, and this is one of them, the appointment of the Supreme Court justices. So I've identified 5 issues, because everybody's talking about these justices, but I'm not seeing much about what areas of law will be affected by this. I think a lot of people don't really get what it means. So let's go through with the 5 that I've identified as probably the most important. And the first one is abortion. A lot of people keep talking about the idea of whether Roe versus Wade can be overturned. And while it is precedent, Justice Kennedy was on 2 decisions wrote supporting the Roe v. Wade decision. Not that that can't be changed, but let's look at the nuances of it. These are in states where laws are passed that could limit or restrict abortion, not necessarily overturn Roe versus Wade, where Justice Kennedy often sided in favor of any kind of limitation on abortion would not be appropriate. You could definitely see a new Supreme Court conservative justice justifying various laws passed by these states, which, while it does not overturn Roe v. Wade, it makes it functionally or practically impossible for women to secure the services of an abortion. Again, I'm not political. Right, wrong, whatever you think is one thing. I'm talking straight out law. So the new conservative justice will have a significant impact on the reality of whether or not a woman can secure an abortion. And that was something Justice Kennedy was a moderate about. The other issue is gay rights. Justice Kennedy had written decisions that very much protected the right to marriage throughout the DOMA law, which is the Defense of Marriage Act. And so, again, many laws can be passed. For example, the baker that didn't want to bake a cake for a gay couple. These kind of laws that are passed, or people that are doing these things that may be considered discriminatory under a Justice Kennedy analysis, may not necessarily be considered discriminatory by a more conservative Supreme Court justice. So expect that there is going to be I see my friend Mark D'Annunzio. Yes, Mark, elections do have consequences. I know that firsthand. So that is something to really look out for. The other one is the death penalty. Kennedy had written on limitations on the death penalty. And I love this issue, certainly as a criminal trial attorney, because let's look at how a Supreme Court justice, while death penalty may be lawful, can seriously curtail or limit its application. Justice Kennedy did that with respect to executing juveniles, which he said was unconstitutional, as well as executing the mentally disabled. I've actually had cases, and homicide cases, where the argument was a person can't be held accountable because they were mentally disabled. And so you will see right now there's a case winding around the Supreme Court about pain-free executions, an argument that it violates the 8th Amendment against cruel and unusual punishment unless the execution can be pain-free. And the question is going to be whether or not states have to provide pain-free execution, which is virtually impossible. So you could see how, while not overturning the death penalty law, the Supreme Court justices on the more conservative side could say, listen, there's no question about the fact that there can't be a pain-free execution, nor does the 8th Amendment require that there be one. Kennedy could have been that swing vote that said, no, it has to be pain-free. So here's where the power of these decisions on who's appointed come to play. Affirmative action. Now, we know that Kennedy was in support and, in fact, wrote decisions that said that race can be considered a factor in order to bring diversity, for example, to education institutions. But right now, and we talked about this on Fox News at Night with Shannon Bream just last week, there's a case winding around the court system about Harvard University's policies on inclusiveness and race are actually discriminatory against Asian Americans. Now, we don't know how that's going to turn out factually, but many legal scholars believe that that case is going to wind its way up to the Supreme Court of the United States. And the Supreme Court of the United States has said previously that race as a factor is not necessarily something that we're going to allow forever. It was something that was supposed to be remedial in some decisions. So that was a 5-4 decision many times in favor of using race as a factor. You may very well find out right now that either the new conservative Supreme Court justice switches that 5-4 in favor of saying that race should not be a factor at all because it violates the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, and the quote-unquote, as the conservatives would say, experiment of using race is no longer valid. So there's a one right on the line there that could virtually reverse decades of affirmative action law. And the other one is going to be the environment with all the regulations, and whether or not these regulations are appropriate under the Constitution, and whether or not these kind of regulations to protect the environment are in fact constitutional. So these are like 5 areas that I've identified. They are going to have a profound impact. There is no question about the fact that those who have been vetted, from what we understand in media accounts, are all those who have passed conservative think tank groups with respect to their credentials. Some have better things than others, and there will be arguments on the conservative side as to which conservative is the best conservative. But nevertheless, there is no question about the fact that Kennedy, who is a balancing factor, a conservative who kind of went on some liberal sides and sometimes he didn't, is now gone and going to be replaced by a person who's going to be far more to the right of Justice Kennedy, and that will have far-reaching implications going forward. So is this right or wrong? A lot of people tend to look at this from a political point of view. As my friend Mark D'Annunzio validates, elections have consequences, and the president gets to appoint these nominees. And these nominees are going to be conservative. So are these issues that you think are good to be revisited? Are you concerned about them? Let me know, because I'm going to be in the media this week, and I would really like to know your personal opinion so I can get myself prepared for that. Hey, thanks for always watching Bianchi Law Talk. I would really appreciate it if you would consider joining the Facebook fan page here and sharing it with your family and friends, as well as subscribe to my Google page at Robert Bianchi ESQ. And again, it's greatly appreciated from the bottom of my heart, your support, and it's always good for you guys to be here. And we'll talk to you soon next week, 10:30, Bianchi Law Talk on Facebook. Thank you.